Hello, you're listening to episode 4 of 8 Minute Movies, Knives 8, a podcast talking about the 2019 movie Knives Out in 8-minute chunks, presented by me, Kieran, and him, Peter. This is a sequential podcast that contains big, huge, mega large spoilers for Knives Out. So you should watch it first before listening and start the podcast with episode 1. Hello to you upon this day, Peter.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. What do we do now?
We move straight into a factual discussion of Knives Out with no digressions or sedations or cetaceans.
Speaking of knives, have you watched the hot new TV show Severance?
Oh, wow. No, I haven't seen it. Is it any good?
No, you have seen it.
Yeah.
You have seen it.
Yes, I've watched all of it. It is very entertaining.
I told you to watch it, and then you did. I ended up watching all of the 9-hour-long episodes across 2 days, which is a silly amount of television to watch.
In my defense, you were the third person who told me to watch it, and 3 is my threshold.
If 3 people tell you to watch something, you will watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked for Our Flag Means Death as well. So
okay.
Yeah. So Severance. We're going to talk about it a little bit at the start of this podcast, because Severance is something you can do with knives, so that makes it directly connected to Knives. Mm-hmm. Knives Out. Like, yeah, that chain of logic holds together perfectly for me.
Checks out.
And there are going to be some little spoilers for it. Like we're going to talk about stuff that happens in the first episode, and
yeah, it's if you want to go in completely without any knowledge, then you may want to skip a little bit or something. But we're not going to go beyond stuff that you can find out in the first episode, and we might mention 1 or 2 other things that aren't really in themselves spoilers.
Yeah, the existence of some stuff which isn't specifically a spoiler, but is very funny nonetheless.
Yeah.
So with that, listen, or you may want to skip ahead for like a minute or 6.
I don't know. I reckon, given our past form, it's probably going to take us more than 1 minute to discuss this show.
Yeah, we haven't even fucking got into it. Yeah. So, in fact, I'm inserting this in an edit from the future. Skip ahead to minute 22 to be fully clear of Severance nonsense. Okay. I love you. Goodbye. Right. Okay, well, that was your spoiler warning. So Severance is a television show available on the old Apple TV. And it's a sort of sci-fi mystery show in the same vein as Dollhouse and Westworld. Those are my 2 sort of anchor points for comparing it to other stuff. So if you liked those, I mean, it's very close to Dollhouse in some ways. So the kind of idea behind Severance, and you learn all this in the first episode, is that there are these people who go to work every day, and they've chosen to undergo a process called severance, which puts a little chip in their brain, which means that when they're at work, they only have their work memories accessible. And when they leave work, they don't have those memories. So their memories have been severed. They have a work self and a rest of life self.
And it's a fresh new job as well. So they don't have any like previous work memories or anything like that. They're just completely kind of blank going in at the beginning.
Yeah. So and the show sort of explores the fridge horror around that idea, where I mean, at first the idea was seductive to me because, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I mean, like, you wouldn't have to care about any of the stuff going on in your job. You could just, go to work, black out for a bit, and then leave, and everything's fine. You're having a lovely time.
Right.
You get your paychecks. You don't have to do anything. However, it turns out there are downsides to the scheme.
And the way that they frame that, by the way, is that when you're one or the other, it's as if no time has passed.
Yeah.
Between the days, so it's like you if you're working, you go up in the elevator to leave, and then suddenly you're arriving in the elevator the next day.
Yeah, which we rapidly learn for the work selves means that they don't ever get to sleep. They never experience sleep. They just sometimes feel more refreshed than other times.
Right, yes, and there's not very much in the way of, like, breaks and stuff either, I suppose. It's not a particularly appealing workplace. It's just kind of this blank office where nothing much really happens.
Yeah, do we be allowed to go into the nature of the work they're doing, or
I think we can say the work itself is also just unusual and a little bit kind of inscrutable.
very strange? I mean, yeah, certainly weirder than any job I've held.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an unusual job, but they don't really get into exactly how it works until some of the later episodes, and even then, there's some mysteries around it, obviously.
Yeah. I really, really liked Severance. I know I had two people whose opinions I trust and value strongly tell me it was good, and then Peter chipped in as well, crossing crossing the threshold. Yeah, just the way it explores these ideas and all of the sort of natural horror that comes out of that. It is a sort of cyberpunk show, right? I mean, that's a word I can use to describe this, isn't it?
It's a word you can use. I don't know whether I would use it.
Yeah, sort of in that there's a dystopia, there's some sort of horrible dystopia ticking along.
Yeah, but I suppose it has some similar themes, but I don't really think it shares any of that aesthetic. I guess I would.
Yeah, I know it's not aesthetically the same. So there's none of the what is it that a lot of people consider from cyberpunk, like the Japanese inspired aesthetic, that sort of thing. It's more that there's a technologically mediated horrendous capitalism system going on.
Yeah,
and then we get to Severance. Oh, fucking hashtag topical.
And the setting feels kind of vaguely modern day-ish, I suppose, with some interesting kind of retro futuristic stuff thrown in there as well.
Right.
So it's not like it feels like the technology has taken over, but it feels like they're maybe on the cusp of something.
Yeah. Is it time to mention the book?
Well, I suppose as a way of getting into it, I would say that the show is sort of a comedy, in that it has a bunch of comic moments, but it's not entirely a comedy. There's a lot of dramatic moments as well, and a lot of quite dark moments.
I sort of thought of it as like, The Office if The Office had been written by Kafka.
Yeah, it's very darkly comic, I would say, and there are certain elements of it that are just straight up funny, I would say, as well. One of the things that we thought it would probably be safe to mention without really spoiling anything is that in this story there features this this self-help book that one of the characters has written.
Yeah,
it's full of gems, isn't it?
I think I jumped the gun on the book. We do need to explain just a little bit more, I think. So the way it's kind of divided up, the company in question who runs everything is called Lumen, and they divide the people are divided up into innies, who are the people working inside, and outies, the rest of the world, going about their day-to-day work, which is sort of this horrible, cutesy, infantilizing term that they've picked. But one of the things you kind of notice about the innies is that they sort of act like children. And it's like the way they talk and the way they act is very sort of naive and like they're sort of like children who possess an adult's knowledge, but they don't have memory. Like, they talk about sex and things, but they don't have memories. They've only existed as people for like hundreds of hours rather than having the full lifetime of experience to draw on. And I think Lumen kind of preys on that with they offer them sort of like trivial rewards for achieving their work, like pencil toppers and things like that.
Right.
And so this is the environment that they're going into, and because of a series of hilarious coincidences, a self-help book from the outside. Outside things are contraband. They're not allowed anything from outside to tell them what the real world is like. In fact, in the first episode, they spend some time speculating on if there's been some sort of horrible climate disaster, which is why, people would go to the horrible effect of being severed. There hasn't. It's just a hashtag capitalism thing. Yeah, so this self-help book that Peter was describing gets smuggled in accidentally, and the innies all take turns reading it. Oh, I really wish we'd picked our favorite quotes from it, because
you can probably remember a couple. Right?
Oh God, I've got my favorite too,
right?
Which are the book is written by a relative of one of the outie characters, who is portrayed as something of a, oh God, what's the right word here, Peter?
I don't know. I don't know what is the right word here.
Well, I mean, like he's a tremendous dork in that kind of California self-help way. He's played almost exclusively for laughs.
Yeah,
and like to the point where his wife and other characters just sort of laugh about him behind his back.
Right.
But he publishes self-help books and has this big following, even though he's very hard to take seriously. And so his book gets smuggled in, and some of two of my favorite lines from it are the difference between a man and a machine is that a man can think and a machine cannot. Also, a machine is made out of metal and a man is made out of skin. And the one that really floored me, it genuinely made me cry with laughter, was in in the center of industry is dust. It's just full of these pseudo profoundisms, which, we, the audience, kind of crack up at because obviously they're just trite gibberish.
Yeah.
Right. But to the innies, it's like a new religion.
Right. It's the best thing that they've ever read.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only thing they've ever read.
Apart from like company stuff.
Apart from weird work stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can tell you about that just to give you a flavor of what some of the funny bits in the show are like. Without revealing anything about what happens in the story, which is actually quite exciting and gets to a really cool conclusion, I think, by the end.
Yeah, I was really annoyed at the end of season 1 when I was like, I want to watch the rest now, and there wasn't more, and I was like, I forgot. That's how seasons work.
So consider, I don't know, if you don't have a subscription to that, I think there's free trials available with which you can watch this sort of thing. If you happen to have been lucky enough to get a PlayStation 5, which would be amazing because they're not real, then I think you can get a 6-month trial of it on that. So there are ways of seeing it, and I would recommend it because we need more people to talk to about this show.
I want a PlayStation 5.
You can't get one; they're not real.
Listeners, if you have a PlayStation 5, send it to me at the PO Box address we will read out at the end of the episode. Does this feel morally ambiguous?
So yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the whole Severance situation, I suppose, and I don't know. I don't think it's as good as it seems, even from the outside perspective, because like I feel like I do a decent day's work and stuff, but also I'll have like a podcast on, or I'll listen to some music, or I'll have a lunch that I enjoy and stuff like that. And work as it exists at the moment isn't all just horrible nonsense labor.
Yeah, have you ever read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson?
I started it a couple of times, but I never actually committed to it.
So I think the Severance has Snow Crash somewhere in its DNA, right? Because a part of the plot of Snow Crash is a billionaire who is kind of obsessed with the idea that his programmers are walking home at the end of the day with, like, you know, like if they learn how to do a new cool programming trick or whatever, it's in their brain, and that's not can't and can never be company property,
right?
So he hires archaeologists to investigate the Tower of Babel myth, and that they come up with some weird Sumerian incantation stuff, which basically can be used to reprogram the human brain on like a low-level neuro-linguistic way, so that they aren't taking their precious like company secrets with them because they physically cannot.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. It's a really good read. Like most Neil Stephenson books, it just kind of ends without really having a conclusion. But it's more like a book than some of his recent ones, I would say. Like that was back when people weren't afraid to say, "Oh, Neil Stephenson, we can't edit his work. He's too cool." I like him a lot, but like a couple of his recent books have been like really woof. Like, oh, this book was fun, but it could have ended 130 pages earlier.
Fair enough. Well, I don't feel like we can really talk very much more about Severance without giving away some of the game.
All right, I tell you what, I'm going to make a note of this time and tell them to skip ahead to it.
Oh, right. I was just going to tell them right now that if they're not listening, they can come back.
How would that work? And they're back. Oh, that was weird. We've never done a temporal vortex before. That's what I assume the technical term for that is.
Sure.
Or like maybe post production. Did I fix it in post? Can I wear my t-shirt?
If you decide you can wear your t-shirt, but also to the listeners, if you decided to skip that previous section, oh boy, you missed a good conversation.
Yeah, go watch Severance and then come back and think, oh, do we have to do Severance as a series now?
What, in 8-minute chunks?
In 8-minute chunks of 1 hour episodes of a show. Wow.
We'd be doing this for the rest of our natural lives.
It'll keep us in biscuit money for years. And I think I've just worked out how to get the listeners to send me a PS5 every week. Shit, dude, I only need one. I can sell the rest. If every listener sends me a PS5, I'd have 5 PS5s.
Some weeks about 800. Who knows?
Don't reveal the stats. That's bad form.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sometimes there are weird spikes we don't know.
Sometimes 100 million listeners, Audible? That's all right. I think I got them back. I don't know if I have anything I wish to digress about right now.
All right. Well,
oh no, let's talk about Monkey Island again. They didn't get enough of that last time.
Yeah, sure. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Fuck you, listeners. We're going back to Monkey Island. Just briefly to say that after we recorded the other episode, I was like, I want to play Monkey Island because I haven't for a long time. Peter was like, you should, and we should watch it. And I was like, yeah. And then I streamed it to him, and it turns out I don't really remember any of the puzzles. But when playing an adventure game, it's quite useful to have someone who knows the entire thing inside out hovering over your shoulder virtually.
When I'm hint system.
Yeah, when I'm like, all right, I think I'm done here, and then this mysterious voice goes, "Are you?" And I'm like, maybe.
It's great because I can kind of troll him with it as well. And just say, "Are you?" Oh, okay. If you're sure you're done, when he actually is done in that
and I'm
room.
Slowly dragging the mouse cursor over every pixel on the screen.
It's like playing the game myself, but without having to wiggle the mouse at all.
It's like your computer's possessed by an idiot. Yeah, I just want to say that the stylistic choices that they do because I'm playing the remastered version, which came out a bunch of years ago. We spoke about it before, and it's weird that some of the choices they made, like Guybrush kind of looks like a hipster cadaver in it. He's very pale.
Well, I was thinking about something that someone's done to make it all a little bit better that you might want to investigate for next time we do that.
Ooh.
Which is that someone has made something called the Secret of Monkey Island Ultimate Talkie Edition.
Right.
And what it does is it allows you to play it with the old graphics, but with the speech as well.
Oh, exciting.
And that might be a preferable way to play it to the modernized visuals. And the other thing, the other reason to do it like that is because of the way that they've changed the interface. Well, some of the jokes are in the interface, so you actually miss some jokes.
Really?
A little bit if you don't have the full interface up there. Only a couple of times in the game, but enough to annoy me slightly.
What's an example of one? I know you have one.
Okay, so there's a great example where do you remember the scene when you're trying to persuade the character called Meat Hook to be on your crew, and in order to do that, he wants you to touch the beast that took his hands.
Not at all, unfortunately. No.
Okay, and when you open the door to the beast, it turns out it's like a parrot, and when you have the opportunity to touch the parrot, all of the verbs that are obviously on screen when you're playing the regular version, but in the special edition are kind of hidden away, kind of off screen. All of your verbs change to different kind of versions of touch, and you just get to choose which one. So it's like tickle or poke or tease. And so it's easy to miss that joke when they're not on screen.
Right.
And there's just a couple of other little examples of things like that where the jokes don't work quite as well when stuff's not on screen. There's another sequence as well when you're stealing the idol where the game is sort of playing itself for a while you're in the room at the back and you're hearing various sounds.
Yeah, I remember that bit.
And it preserves it keeps the kind of verb line at the bottom of the screen telling you what you're doing, but you miss stuff like different items and things appearing in the inventory on the new graphics. So there's some stuff that is a little bit lost in translation.
Plus, also, I kind of find the new interface a little bit garbage because you have to press buttons to bring up like the list of verbs and a button to bring up the inventory, and having everything on the screen at once would be really useful, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a really poor implementation actually, and they address that in the second special edition. Becomes much better.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember it being so much of a hassle, but I think I'm just remembering the second one they did.
Yeah, the interface of the second special edition becomes a bit more like Curse of Monkey Island, where you just hold the mouse over something and then you get some options about what you want to do with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well. That's taken us up to our good digression limit for one episode, I think. And it especially counts if we are re-digressing on a previous digression.
Yeah. That wasn't even my idea to do that.
I know.
Yeah.
The audience will still blame you, however. So, back to the podcast at hand, I guess. This is a podcast where we take a movie, cut it up into 8-minute chunks, and then me and Peter will pre-digest those chunks into a milky pap that soothes your roughened gizzard.
Well, I mean, what can I say after that?
Think of the movie as like a juicy earthworm, and me and Peter as the mama birds baby birding that regurgitated worm into your little bird beaks.
I think before the next episode of this, we're going to have to come up with some new metaphors.
I tell you what, you can do the next intro. Would you like
that? Sure.
Okay, good. Remind me next time. I'll forget.
Okay.
So, in addition to that, we got some bells that we press randomly. There are some rules about that.
No, we've got to do more than that.
Okay.
So, yeah, to explain that a little better, so hopefully you've been following from episode 1, just like we've suggested, but just as a reminder, we are ringing the bell on the words out and thing.
Yeah. Those two are the death phrases for this season, and if we sound the bell enough for one or the other, then at the end of the season, whoever has accumulated the most points will be killed.
Hooray!
Sweet oblivion at last. And now, oh god, now we move into some actual podcast a mere 7 hours in. This is the section that we call Let's Not Talk About the Thing. And Peter, once again, what would you like to hear about? I don't know this season why I'm asking you, because you have no choice.
I have no choice. I'd like to hear about Jamie Lee Curtis.
Unfortunately, you're going to be hearing about Daniel Craig.
Okay, I just gonna say that, and then I switched to Jamie Lee
Oh
Curtis at the
yeah,
last moment.
yeah. You should have. She's lovely, but unfortunately, Daniel Craig is in my list.
Okay, go on then.
All right. Come on. He's a very famous actor. You could at least give him a bit more respect than that. Go on. Sound enthusiastic for Daniel Craig playing Benoit Blanc.
Look, I think I've already expressed my appreciation for him in this role, and my indifference towards him as James Bond and anything else to do with James Bond. And that's all he's getting out of me.
Daniel Rawton Craig, CMG, born this.
Wait. Rawton? How are you spelling that?
Wroughton. It's probably pronounced Wooten or something.
Okay. Okay, and just one more thing. CMG.
He is a companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George.
What does that get you?
The Queen gives you a thing, like a hat. I think you become like a sir or a knight or something. I didn't look it up very well, Peter. I wasn't expecting so much blowback on the CMG, which definitely sounds like a music term now.
Move on.
He was born 2nd of March 1968, and he's an English actor. He's most well known for his role as Jake Lonergan in the science fiction western Cowboys and Aliens, but he's also appeared in the fantasy film The Golden Compass, 2007, the drama Defiance, 2008, the mystery thriller The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from 2011, the heist film Logan Lucky, 2017, and the mystery comedy Knives Out. The last earning him a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. That's that category again. After training at the National Youth Theatre in London and graduating from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in 1991, Craig began his career on stage. He made his film debut in the drama The Power of One from 1992 and the family film A Kid in King Arthur's Court from 1995. Wow, he's in A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
I don't know that.
Oh boy, we've got to show you that movie. It's aged poorly. With his breakthrough role coming in the drama serial Our Friends in the North from 1996. He gained roles in the period film Elizabeth from 1998 and in the action film Lara Croft Tomb Raider 2001, before appearing in the crime thrillers Road to Perdition 2002 and Layer Cake from 2004, as well as the historical drama film Munich from 2005.
All right.
So that's all there is to say about Daniel Craig.
Now,
what?
I'm still stuck on something that you said at the beginning.
Right.
Go back to the bit where you're talking about what he's known for.
He's most well known for his role as Jake Lonergan in the science fiction western Cowboys and Aliens from 2011.
Right. I think you're pranking me.
Why?
Because that's not true, is it?
Well, I mean, I've seen him in Cowboys and Aliens.
Okay.
Have you watched Cowboys and Aliens? He's really good in it.
I haven't. Now, I think that you set this whole little bit up so to see whether I would mention or not that I think that James Bond might be an important part of his career as well.
I'm sorry, James who?
Come on, own up to it. I've seen right through you.
Own up to what? James Bond, did you say? Is he like an accountant?
Not James Pond, not Robocop. James Bond.
There's a line here that says, "Will he notice James Bond?" with 3 question marks after it.
Yes. Come on. Give me a little bit of credit.
I just wanted to see if you'd notice if I did a biography of Daniel Craig and missed out James Bond. Yeah, okay, he's been in a shitload of James Bond movies. Right. Starting with Casino Royale in 2006 and ended in No Time to Die, which came out this year. I haven't seen No Time to Die yet. I wanted to go and see it. But coronavirus pandemic. And you'll never guess who he meets up with again in No Time to Die. Who's playing the Bond girl? It's Ana de Armas, who he met on Knives Out and liked working with her so much he got her a job in James Bond. Well,
isn't that
that's actually a very rude way for me to put it. Like, I assume that he was like, "Would you like to work in James Bond?" And she was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, sure." And then they did the whole casting thing. Like, I don't think Daniel Craig can arbitrarily assign people roles in Bond movies.
Maybe he can. Maybe he's like, cast this person. I'm not doing the Bond.
I actually, yeah, I need to review this now. Go open No Time to Die, scroll down and see if he's listed as an executive producer, in which case he probably can.
Yeah. Honestly.
But yeah, they liked working together, so they appeared in another film together. Fantastic. Okay.
That's nice.
That's fun. I like it. That story genuinely delights me, like when, you know, your son makes a friend at nursery. I don't know why. I've got a weird parasocial relationship with Daniel Craig now, I guess. He's my little baby Bond boy.
Yeah, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I can muster up no enthusiasm at all for James Bond. I don't know why. It seems like there's a world in which it might be my kind of thing, but I've just never been that interested.
That is weird to me. I mean, like, people. I mean, there are people who don't like Bond, but like, I'm sure you gotta like one of them, right? I mean, not specifically a Bond actor, maybe, but there's got to be like, what's your favorite James Bond film? Is the question I'm asking here, and I don't want you. No, it's none of them.
Well, I mean, you've got to remember that I'm someone who has
raised in a cave. Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry.
Not really seen many James Bond films, and the ones that I have seen, I haven't really seen more than once.
You lived in the sewers with the other chuds until your mid-30s, where you were driven up to the surface.
I remember as a child seeing Live and Let Die. I remember as probably a teenager seeing Die Another Day because some friends wanted to see it and it had come out.
Oh yeah, if you started with Die Another Day, I see why you may not.
It's not a very good one, is it?
It's not. No, it's not well received.
And I've seen bits of other ones at various times. I've probably seen one at your house at some point. It wouldn't surprise me.
Probably GoldenEye, because that's my favorite.
I might have seen GoldenEye. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just not that interested. There's nothing against it, really. I just don't really care. Sorry, Craig.
Do you know,
David?
this is increasingly bad because we actually have Daniel Craig here as a guest, and he's been listening to all of this in the green room, and I've just been informed that he's left because of what you said.
Sorry, Daniel Craig. Sorry, I called you Craig David just now as well.
They're different people, Peter. Yeah. I was going to say one of them's a singer, but I think Daniel Craig might also sing. I'm sorry, Dan. Oh, this is going to be one of those podcasts where we have to formally apologize to Daniel Craig next week. I think he's a great actor. He's a great actor. I like him in the Bond films he's in. I haven't seen the two most recent ones. All right, Quantum of Solace was a bit garbage, but even he admitted that one. They didn't have a script, you know. I mean, like, it was in the middle of that writer's strike, so they were just kind of like, "Oh, what would Bond do here? Eat breakfast?"
I think that Daniel Craig would appreciate that someone enjoys him as an actor outside the context of Bond. You know, people don't want to be defined by one role, which is perhaps a contributing factor to why he wanted to play such a weird, outlandish detective character.
How do you
in this film?
How do you feel about him in Cowboys and Aliens?
I've never seen Cowboys and Aliens.
All right, well, Well, I'll let you off, but I feel like you should apologize to Daniel Rawton Craig, CMG.
Um,
I'm waiting.
Sorry, Daniel Rotten, Craig, CMG.
All right, that's better. We can move on from here. Now, as you rather astutely mentioned, he is playing a detective in the film. He's playing Detective Benoit Blanc. And did you at any point in your life want to be a detective, Peter?
I don't think I've ever had a strong desire to be a detective,
Hmm.
but I've always liked, like, particularly like freelance detectives in stories.
Yeah, because I asked because I'm not sure if I've ever told you or anyone this, but I super did as a child. I think between the ages of 8 and 9,
Okay.
or maybe earlier. It might probably earlier actually. I super wanted to be a detective, and I got into it through the Disney Club comic Mickey Mouse is a Detective series.
Okay.
and after that I started absorbing other sort of detective themed media. And I think at a certain point I realized like I was going around fingerprinting shit,
Hmm.
and all that other stuff. You can do it with like white or black poster paint. You just have to kind of like gently brush it onto something and the fingerprints appear. But then you have to go and fingerprint your family who will probably put up with it begrudgingly if you're a child, but the older you get, the less into it they are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a detective hat that I wore. Oh god, there's probably a photo of me in that hat.
What sort of hat was your detective hat?
um, it was like my granddad's fedora.
Okay.
like a like he was like, if you're a detective, wear this, and I'm like, oh, okay, yes. And I think he just took it back off me after a while because he needed a hat.
Did you have a magnifying glass?
I did have a magnifying glass, yeah. Oh, I think there was some slight overlap with spies because I was practicing dead drops and things.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I also ended up. There's some sort of overlap between being a detective and the Usborne book of spying. Um,
Okay, yeah, I recall that book.
which I definitely read.
Yeah.
But I didn't go into it because it turns out it's a thing I have no aptitude for.
Right.
I know writers who use subtext; they're all cowards, etc., etc.
I think most
Yeah.
detectives have to be like just regular cops for a bit as well, which is probably a drag.
Oh yeah, who'd want to do that? Like, I suppose you could just go and say you're a detective, but then people would quickly find out you're not good at it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just gone into private detectivery, but
I mean, the idea is interesting to me because presumably there's some point in the police career where they're like, okay, you can be a detective now. We will send you on some courses to learn detectiving. So it's got to be a taught skill, but I guess not everybody comes out of that school at Colombo. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. I would. I think in theory, I'd like to detect, but without any of the police baggage. I'd have to be independent and eccentric.
Oh yeah, I think you've got that one down. Don't worry. And with that backhanded comment, I think it's time for us to review your answers from the previous episode.
Do you want to say that again, or are you
No,
happy with that?
I'm happy with it.
All right. Okay.
I was looking at a different word in the script, but fine, episode it is.
All right.
So you said last time, if you were seeing this for the first time, who do you think the murder is and how did they done it? And you're still on Linda Knife, which yep, because all of the subsequent motive revelations were too obvious. You know, the where Walt with his publishing company and Richard with his affair.
Mhm.
Uh, and Joni with her just needing some money. And you said it definitely isn't ransom because the whole thing is too lampshaded. He shouts at Harlan at the party and then storms out, and we haven't even seen him at this point.
Right.
And you said it's definitely not Marta because it doesn't fit her character.
Yes, that's where I am mentally at the moment.
Right.
If I'm thinking back to how I would have thought about this when I first saw the film.
If the technology from Severance becomes real, can I sever you for movies?
Yeah, but then like my conversation is going to be all very simplistic, like even more so than usual about the film.
We'll talk about what your contractual obligations are after the show, okay? Yeah, and then you said we discussed what's happening next, and you said we find out that Marta throws up whenever she tells a lie, and that Blanc is going to test this successfully by asking if she knew about Richard's affair. Then she'll be interviewed formally, and we're going to find out that there's more to the story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that, let's get into it, and we'll watch minutes 24 to 32 of Knives Out.
All right.
Marta says she started working for Harlan for 15 hours a week, but he needed more help, that he needed a friend. Interestingly, in the background of this scene here, it's actually raining, and you can sort of see it, like, because the deck all around them is slick. And the sound team did such a good job, like, editing out not editing, but like tuning it out with filters and stuff on the day, that they didn't need to go back for any ADR, like additional dialogue recording. They just use the take, and you don't hear the rain. That was very, very good work.
Pretty good. Now, when Blanc is talking to Marta about this and kind of pressing her, I guess, a little bit on her character, what makes her a good nurse and all of that sort of thing. The police seem uncomfortable with Blanc's approach here, which is interesting.
How do you mean? I'm not sure I noticed that.
They sort of try to interrupt him in his line of questioning.
Oh yes. They yeah, I remember now. He's a little more forward than I think they'd like.
Yeah.
Here's a thing that I think is quite sweet, actually. Ana de Armas is from Cuba, as we discussed earlier, and they knew she'd probably be freezing on location in Boston winter, so they designed her costume in layers so that she can layer up to stay warm. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I like that. So she's not just sitting there shivering on set. Blanc explains that Harlan probably told her the unfiltered truth. That's not his truth. About many of them, and that she has a regurgitative reaction to mistruthin, that she literally vomits if she lies. Do you think this is a real medical condition?
I am gonna say this could exist, yes.
It's not a real medical condition. The closest that they could find while researching it was that extreme anxiety can cause some gastrointestinal problems. So if you had some sort of deep-seated anxiety about lying, maybe it could make you feel nauseous. But this is like really taking that whole idea to like 11.
Yeah, it's a necessary conceit, I guess. I remember thinking it was a little weird as a thing at the time, and was thinking, okay, this has got to be key at some point, because otherwise, why would they go to the trouble of establishing this quite weird plot point?
Right, and Ryan Johnson said that he took a leaf out of the Breaking Bad playbook here, where one of the sort of rules they were operating under is that you should always put your characters in the worst possible situation. So Marta is going to absolutely need to lie to get out of the get out of this situation she's found herself in. So they take away her ability to lie.
Right.
Blanc asks Marta if Richard is having an affair. We see a flashback of Harlan and Marta outside on the deck in the sun, and he shows her the photos of Richard we've seen earlier. Oh dear, so she knows. As Harlan gets a great line here, which is, why do men instinctively tug at loose strings on their parachutes? He doesn't think much of Richard as a person, I'm taking from it. Back in the present, Marta, looking uncomfortable, stalls. Blanc says a yes or no will do. She says no, and then she vomits into an urn.
There we go. Go on.
No.
I was just going to say, if she knows the result that the answer is going to have, the obvious kind of question is why still lie? And I think that I do like this moment because she's still in this mindset that loyalty to this family is important.
Yeah, she's trying to protect them, and that it will turn out to be revealed is a misguided thing. But also, it's quite useful from the point of view of the audience because it reveals that, she absolutely cannot lie without throwing up. Oh, boy. Blanc and Elliot comfort her briefly before Blanc says that he was right. Richard was having an affair and Harlan knew about it. Elliot doesn't think it's a strong enough reason for murder, and Blanc brings up Joni, asking Marta if Harlan was going to cut off her allowance. Again, we get a flashback with Harlan showing Marta the evidence. Now, it's interesting here because, like in the previous scene, well, what we've got here is Harlan sitting at his desk in his office, and Marta is in a lounge chair in the room with him, and she's just sort of lounging there, drinking a cup of tea and reading a book. And it's sort of more like how you would just have a friend be with you in companionable silence rather than a nurse. Like, she is very comfortable around Harlan, and likewise he with her, and you can just tell this from their body language.
Yeah, and he's clearly unguarded around her as well.
Well, I mean, he is straight up telling her these absolutely horrible things about his family.
Yeah.
How about his children?
But even just kind of blurting stuff out before he's even necessarily directly addressing Marta.
Yeah. Blanc triumphantly announced that Joni was double dipping, and Trooper Wagner is shocked that an influencer could do a crime. Oh, he's adorable. I got a note here that in the scene, Blanc is dapper AF. As he is throughout the movie, but in this scene, he's wearing a Brooks Brothers tan herringbone topcoat. So, if you want to hashtag steal his look, that's what you're going to be doing. I can't afford that coat. And let's face it, it's not going to look as good as me as it does on Daniel Rotten Craig CMG. We'll get into the fashions from the movie and the internet's response to them more when we're introduced to Ransom.
Look, I like you a lot, but I probably agree that Daniel Craig can pull that off better.
I will take that feedback with no further comments. Blanc notes that all three of them lied. Walt had been shaken by something Harlan said. Harlan was clearing house. He goes to ask Marta about this, and she escapes inside. Not unfairly, I think. She's just running away at this point.
Yeah, so obviously we know that there's also an ulterior motive for her wanting to get away from this situation, but it also just feels perfectly plausible that she'd want to leave at this point anyway.
And interesting, Blanc doesn't ask her to stay because he's proven his point already.
Right, yeah. Also, I'm glad that Blanc here uses a similar phrase that I used last time about like clearing house, because I wasn't really thinking about this. I'd forgotten this whole kind of summary of the motives and things that he gives at this point, and so I'm glad that my thinking about that was aligned with the clever detectives at this point.
I mean, listeners, you do have to take that with a pinch of salt, as we've proven before that he's a hashtag podcast research liar. Hanging out on Wikipedia, calling up the actors at all hours of the day. Blanc begins to explain to Elliot why he's here. And one of the bits he says here are none of these domestic squibbles, and I'm like, squibbles?
Yeah, that's not a word.
I do not think this word means what you think it means. I'm here for squibbles. We should it's a cross between squabble and scribble. I don't know.
I think it's a cross between maybe quibble and squabble.
Squibble, yeah. Squibbles. I love it. I love it.
But I am again glad that at this point Benoit is acknowledging that the motives that we've seen so far don't really add up to really a murder motive. There's something, but they're not they're not gonna draw a line from that to murder, really, which is where I was with it last week when you're asking me whether I wanted to change my answer about Linda. And I'm like, no, because I feel like Linda's hiding something that we're not really aware of, perhaps, at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't explored her motives at all.
Yeah, and
should indeed any exist.
And the motives that we've got for 3 others at the moment just don't really seem like they really cut it.
I hadn't really thought about it before, but the movie, as it goes on, will present no motive for Linda, or will it? Like, not explicitly.
I don't think so, no. And I think that we're probably at this stage supposed to think, does she have a motive? Maybe she does have a motive that we're not aware of at the moment. But it's not one of those. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to be one of those mysteries where literally everyone that you meet has a motive and it's all that mysterious. But
no.
Yeah.
Benoit Blanc refers to himself in the third person here, like Hercule Poirot. Is that mandatory for detectives?
I think you have to do it at least sometimes.
Right. He says here that he dodged a question. He doesn't know who hired him. An envelope of cash turned up with a copy of Harlan's obituary, and Trooper Wagner says, that was enough to hire you? And he says, an envelope of cash, and holds his fingers about an inch apart.
Right.
Funnily enough, they cut a gag here where Elliot says that they'll need to take that in for evidence, and Blanc says, oh, sure, and hands him the empty envelope.
That's pretty good.
I quite like that one. Blanc says someone suspects foul play, but who? If you look closely, Blanc has a red rashy neck here, which will be explained in a later deleted scene, but otherwise just makes him look a little bit rashy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not that obvious. I never noticed it until it was explicitly pointed out to me by someone else.
No, I don't think I've ever noticed it either.
They review the evidence so far, which we see in flashback. The party ends at about 11:30. Marta takes Harlan upstairs, up the creaky stairs to the attic office for his medicine. Linda tries to sleep, but wakes every time someone uses the creaky stairs. Joni hears a bump upstairs and goes up there to check, and Harlan tells her that he knocked over the go board and to go back downstairs to bed.
Now, I remember the first time that I saw this, I thought there was something going on here.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't seem like the go board would make that sort of noise.
Yeah, the two things that made me suspicious here are exactly as you say, like the go board like we hear like a big thump in the previous little flashback scene, and then we go, we cut upstairs and the go board's on the floor and he's telling her to go back to bed. Like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it would make that much noise. Obviously, probably no noise at all.
Yeah.
And also, Marta is in the room, just standing in the corner, facing away from the two of them. Like, that is a mega weird thing to do if someone enters a room. Like, you would look, right, at the very least, but she stands there facing away from both of them, which is weird behavior.
It is.
10 minutes later, Linda is woken up by Marta leaving. They keep doing this shot where Linda like wakes up and looks up at the ceiling above her, and because they realized that the camera was just panning up to nothing, they went and bought a fancy little lamp to cast a weird kind of like spidery shadow on the ceiling, just so there was something there. And then they ended up reusing it a bunch of times. Like, they just like the effects. They ended up reusing it a bunch of times throughout the film. Walt is smoking a cigar on the porch and notes her leaving, looking at his watch. It's midnight. This is one of those unreliable narrator moments that we will get back to later. 15 minutes later, Linda wakes a third time. Harlan is coming downstairs for a midnight snack. I got a note here, which is not relevant at this point, but I just put it in here at random. So sorry, you get this note, which may not be entirely related to what's happening right now. The whole film was shot digitally rather than on film, which is a big change for Rian Johnson. And film has this soft glow around the edges of bright lights like windows, which is called halation. And the cinematographer, Steve Yedlin, had to write a post-processing script to simulate the effect in any shot where it was relevant.
Yes, I remember. I do remember this being talked about actually at some point. I must have seen something about this because, yeah, it was shot digitally, but then later made to look more like it was
film.
shot on film, wasn't it?
Yeah. Walt shouts through the door for Harlan to go back to bed, and he walks back upstairs.
And he does this without really even looking that much, doesn't he? So this must be something that just happens sometimes.
Yeah, Walt is standing out on the porch, and Harlan is walking down the stairs in his like nightgown and nightcap. And we don't really see Harlan in any great detail here. That's a point we should probably mention for no particular reason.
Yes.
But Walt can't see him either through the frosted glass of the door. And so he just shouts, "Dad, go back to bed." And he walks upstairs. I thought that was kind of, Harlan probably does that all the time. But I thought it was weird that he'd, accede to that request. He doesn't seem like the sort of person to...
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, actually. Yeah, it feels like if he wanted to ignore Walt and get a midnight snack, he just would.
Yeah, from what we see of Harlan throughout the movie, he just does what he wants to do, which if I ever reach the age of 85, I'm fucking hell, that's me. I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah, it'd be like, my mind's made up, Walt.
Yeah.
It's all for the best. I'm getting this snack.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the office tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. From this, they figure out the time of death to be between 12:15 and 2 a.m. At near 3 a.m., Meg wakes up because the dogs are barking outside.
Perhaps this will be significant later.
So this is the thing that kept buzzing around in my brain when we were watching it in the cinema, right? Is that all of the evidence presented later, which sort of solves this thing, never addresses this. It never addresses why the dogs bark at 3 a.m.
It's a good clue here, I think, and I will have completely missed that when I watched it for the first time, I'm sure.
At this point, Elliot isn't having it. It was clearly a suicide. Harlan slit his carotid artery, as shown by the blood spatter. They say the blood spatter is, uninterrupted, so it shows there was no one around him. And they cut a line here saying that, it went clear 8 feet across the room because they tidied up that blood in post production to get a PG rating.
Right.
But that line was to suggest that maybe maybe that explains where the blood droplets on Marta come from. Blanc remarks here that physical evidence can tell a clear story with a forked tongue, which is a line I quite liked.
Yeah.
And pretty true. Obviously, I mean, we've got all this evidence, but it's pointing directly at something which is not the conclusion of the case.
And Elliot just doesn't really understand this line. Like, what? Which follows one of my favorite kind of consulting detective tropes, I guess, which is where the cops just are not good enough.
Lakeith Stanfield and Noah Segan have some comments about their performance as a police force, which we will get to in a later episode for their spin-off show. I'm not telling you about the spin-off show yet.
Okay.
Thunder rumbles as Blanc remarks that everyone can lie. Well, almost everyone. Ooh. He's talking about Marta because she can't lie.
I know. I got that.
That's subtext.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
but it's kind of text, really, isn't it?
Inside, later, Marta is being formally interviewed. They wanted to talk to her last. Yeah, and we end here for 8 minutes of this show. You can sort of see why they wanted to talk to her last, because she's like a fucking polygraph test for everyone else.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
But as we'll find out in the next episode, I think it's why polygraph tests aren't used very much is that the truth is highly subjective.
Also, polygraph tests wouldn't be used as much if they just chucked vomit everywhere every time someone lied.
Oh god, like the fucking Exorcist. I often wonder what's going to come of those fMRI polygraph tests, where you put someone in a functional MRI machine and ask them questions, and if the area of the brain responsible for telling the truth lights up, they're telling the truth, and if the area of the brain responsible for telling a lie lights up, they're telling a lie. I mean, that one feels a bit. I'm just worried about it killing off, detective thrillers in the future. Like how the introduction of the mobile phone had to, severed hundreds of like very common detective tropes. I think there's even a Columbo episode we watched where the distance of the drive to a nearby payphone is a huge element in the plot, and actually the gotcha that Columbo hangs the whole case on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that's quite impressive actually about this film is that it manages to do this kind of fairly old-fashioned style mystery set in basically the present day.
Yeah.
Without being ruined by technology, really.
No, yeah. I mean, we will get into how modern technology fails probably a couple of episodes from now when we go to examine some stuff that you think Carla might have, like CCTV. Just digress even further to say one of my favorite things they do on the Columbo podcast is at the end of each season, like of the show, they go back to all of the previous ones and they try and figure out whether the case would be thrown out of court or not.
Oh yeah, like probably most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Columbo conducts his business in some of these cases is technically highly unethical. But I tend to give him a pass because of how he almost exclusively goes after cocky rich people who think
Yeah,
they're above the law.
yeah,
And so
that's
it's
his.
it's more like he's kind of leveling the playing field than cheating.
Yeah. Columbo pretty much exclusively takes down people for whom traditionally the law only acts as a protective force,
Right.
which is fun. We like Columbo. You should watch that as well. You should back our Patreon where we watch Columbo episodes and talk about them.
Uh But yeah, seriously, if you like the aspects of Benoit Blanc's character where he's kind of uh, appearing deliberately a little naive in order to draw out more information from the people he's questioning, then I think you will probably quite enjoy Columbo's approach.
Lifted straight from the Columbo playbook. If
Yeah.
there was a point in this movie where Blanc did a straight up just one more thing, I would die happy.
Yeah. Hey, maybe the next one.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for Knives Out too. Peter Moydrug.
God.
If you were seeing this movie for the first time, who do you think the murderer is, and how did they done it? It's going to be Linda Knife again, still, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
anything has happened. In fact, the conversations that they've just had reinforce my previous position even more, I would say.
yeah. Elliot says they're all weak source reasons,
And Benoit does seem to agree with that.
and we see that Harlan definitely slit his own throat because there was no one else around him. At this point, are you imagining perhaps a murderer with a knife on a really long stick?
Um, I think I'm thinking, well, something odd has got to be going on, but all of those thoughts are going to very quickly get overtaken by what happens next in the film.
Right. And of course, our other question, what happens next?
Yes. So, I think that pretty soon now we're going to get into at least what appears to be the true story of what happens. So we are going to find out that there was a mix-up with the medicines, and that uh, basically Marta is unable to find the medication to reverse the mix-up, and the dose that Harlan's being given is therefore way too high, and his death is basically inevitable. And then we are going to witness Harlan come up with a plan for how Marta can get away with this mix-up.
Right, very good. I have a strong feeling that's exactly what's going to happen. And
yeah, I think we'll probably get through most of that bit in the next 8 minutes.
yeah, we're definitely a good chunk through it, I think.
Mm.
And what are you thinking about the film so far?
Yeah, I really enjoying it so far. So far, it seems also like a fairly standard mystery setup, and so I'm looking forward to being able to say more other things about that, as I think that's all going to change in the
Right
next
soon.
episode.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of settling you comfortably into whodunit vibes at this point.
Yeah, it's a good setup with good characters, but we're in, up until this point at least, kind of familiar territory for mysteries.
Yeah. I think I missed out a note earlier where Benoit Blanc says you've been very patient, and Ryan Johnson put that in as directed to the audience. It's not. He's saying it, but they're saying, "Thank you for coming on this like aggressive half an hour journey of like data upload with us." But we're cruising into the bit where the movie's actually kicked into gear soon, real soon.
It's just. It makes me really excited without getting too far into what's about to happen, because we'll talk about that when it happens. It just makes me really excited for the next film that there's going to be, and and how, because they obviously they're not going to be able to subvert things in the same way, but I've got to imagine that he wants to subvert it in some different way, and I've got no idea what that means at the moment, and I'm really excited to maybe explore that.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about Knives Out too, because in the first movie, this one, we've just come into everything completely blank, and and blank, and but in the second movie, we won't be going into it quite so blank.
No, it's just
it only works once or so.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have to really it's gonna have to be a different setup, and I'm excited to see how it differs from this one.
Yeah, is it just going to be more of a straight mystery, or is it going to just surprise us in a completely different way that we haven't thought of? Who knows?
I've just had a weird thought. Is Knives Out 2 supposed to come out this year?
I think so. Like, it's all filmed now, right? And there can't be that much post-production.
So, well, there is the scene where he fights on Mars. A lot of CGI. We may be releasing this podcast at the same time as Knives Out 2 has come out. That'd be a weird thing.
Cool.
Yeah, how are we going to do it if Knives Out 2 comes? Do we have to watch it in the cinema and whisper into a recorder?
If we're still recording this at the point that Knives Out 2 comes out, then that's just going to be one of our digressions at the beginning, which is going to be weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So the sequel to this movie has just been released. So I guess that weirdness carries us softly over the finish line of this podcast into the waiting arms of Morpheus. I meant like the Greek god of sleep, not Lawrence Fishburne from The Matrix. Is there like a school you can go to get good metaphors?
Isn't that just regular school?
Oh, I definitely don't think so, no. Yeah, so podcast concluded, let's put it that way. And listeners, if you have any questions or comments, or I actually tell us what your favorite James Bond movie is and why. And if you don't have a favorite James Bond movie, watch GoldenEye. I like that one.
Oh, if you don't want to watch.
I was trying to think of the other ones I like, but the names all kind of run together in my brain. I like the one where they're on the boat and he puts the guy in the pressure chamber and blows him up. That's a cool one. I think that might be Live and Let Die. And I like the one where they've got the spaceship and he eats other spaceships. I know that one's Moonraker.
And if you don't want to watch any James Bond films and don't really have a favorite, then just make up the title of a James Bond film. They're getting really lazy with it now, so it's quite easy. Like the last one was like, what, No Time to Die? You just use the word die in there somewhere and how it's probably not going to happen to Bond.
If we get sued by Broccoli Productions because of this, you are taking the brunt of this. Also, if you don't like James Bond, tell us what your favorite bit of Cowboys versus Aliens was. I watched it on a plane.
I didn't.
I watched that and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy on a 14-hour flight from London to LA, and I think I like Cowboys and Aliens more, but I kind of slept through both of them. So, you know,
But it was probably better than, what was the one that I hated on a plane? Geostorm.
Geostorm.
Yeah.
Is Daniel Craig in Geostorm? That'd be amazing.
He's not in that.
He's
I
not
don't
in
think.
that.
No.
No. But I do have to show you a kid in King Arthur's Court, and we have to keep an eye out for Daniel Craig.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So if you have any questions or comments, email us at podcast@8minutemovies.co.uk. And if you like the show, tell a friend. Have the URL of our podcast skywritten above your place of work, or leave a comment on whatever service you listen to this on. Maybe not our website, because I don't think you can leave comments there. I can't remember. I hope you can't.
Write on your screen.
Yeah, you could write on your screen, but be sure to use a wipe clean marker, because we are not responsible for you damaging your laptop.
Yeah, if you have already written "I like the podcast" on your screen as a result of this, then we are not responsible.
Don't try this at home, etc., etc. Okay, where can you be found on the internet, Kestrel Pie?
That's right, Kestrel Pie. Kestrel like the bird and Pie like the irrational number. That's who I am on Twitter and various other bits and pieces.
And I'm Kieran J. Walsh on Twitter, although increasingly I just don't tweet. I don't know why I bother adding this easy.
Fair, honestly.
All right. So we had a good time. We hope you had a good time. We love you, listeners. Keep coming back and perhaps recommending us to large brands for sponsorship deals. Don't want to pressure you or anything, but that'd be nice.
If you are a large brand, wouldn't you love to be associated with this bullshit?
Oh God, no! You've got to stop calling it shit, otherwise. Who do you think we are? The McElroys? The podcast concluded. Goodbye.
Bye.